Forged secretly in mortuary archaeology's hottest furnace, it's Archaeodeath.
It's an Archaeodeath interview with Professor Howard Williams, TM, and his guest.
Welcome, Archaeodeathlings. And if you didn't know, this is the incomparable. Is that the word? It is. You probably do have to do now a minute breakdown of any word I use.
Incomparable
Michelle.
just means nobody to compare to. That's all it means, or nothing to compare to, and that is neither an insult nor a compliment.
That's the way I like them, because I like to be as ambiguous as possible. Hello, welcome everybody. We're going to be dealing with an interesting topic today: Victorian deathly nonsense. Because Michelle and I have been scheming about various ways we could do a collab. Is that the term the youth of today use? A collaboration in our social media enterprises, and there's so many bleeding hoaxes out there that I thought we could do Victorian ones, deathly ones, if possible. But I'm just really intrigued, because I struggle to think about the past in terms of right and wrong, and I'm very much a wishy-washy, middle of the roady kind of. I see a bit of grain of truth in that stuff. But I like this more demonstrative sort of no. It was all wrong type approach, because people do learn from that method, and I'm learning that maybe I've been a bit reticent in embracing the power of the debunk approach, because there's so much garbage out there. And
you're quite soft compared to me. I immediately just come out and tell people, no, the Green Man is never real, and was never real. Was invented by Lady Raglan in 1939, or I'll say something like, there is no ancient witch cult. That was made up by Margaret Murray. Or no,
Christmas want to believe in the Green Man. I don't.
We all
I only do that
believe.
to troll you. I don't give a toss about the Green
Man.
But
as I say to people, who say things like, whenever we have this, we just passed Christmas, and so we always have this argument every year. Oh, it's Christmas pig. No, it's not. That idea came from two people specifically. One Victorian and one infamous fraudster, one whom you might know, Howard, Iolo Morgannwg, who made up a lot of crud. And, oh yes, and he as somebody brilliantly put in my comments, Iolo Morgannwg walked so the Victorians could run. And
that's probably he was like a proto-Victorian shyster, wasn't he? He was a real sort of hoaxer of the extreme. And I mean, there's so much nonsense, and people like to sort of blame it as just the Victorians, but actually it was the 19th century and the late 18th century too that was in on this, and it was this kind of many generations. And also what I find really funny about the history of archaeology, and perhaps we'll get to this later, the very birth of the subject is 19th century, but it's based around the lie that they were doing something radically different from the antiquarians that came before. And I always teach my first years, actually most of the 19th century was full of the same antiquarian garbage that was happening in the 18th century. It's just that they called it archaeology rather than antiquarianism as a kind of rebrand, in the same way that Lou Binford did with archaeology in the 60s, calling it new archaeology, which I was saying is like the all-new Popeye show, or one of these or Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated. You just rebrand the same show, but you give it a new a new approach. So for me, it's all plus ça change, as they say. It's all about there's a bit of new method and stuff, but it's all people doing the same old nonsense.
But it is a science now, and that is really what we're going to get into. And well, you have things like geophys, right? That's science, and you have
I've got test tubes, a white coat. No, I don't wear a white coat now. I wish I did. I used to wear a white coat, but that was before I became an academic. I was a pharmaceutical control lab technician, quality control lab technician. I used to test deep heat rub to make sure that it wasn't going to take people's skin off.
And boy, did it in hell. Were you really once a Victorian hoaxer, Howard?
I was like the Frankenstein. I was in a lab, sort of trying to concoct new medicines, and it all went wrong. And
Frankenstein's earlier, 1818.
That's true. I don't know. I was anyway. I'm in the mix there somewhere as one of the great fraudsters. But this is my new identity. I'm really 240, and I've just been through many lifetimes. I am the Doctor, after all.
That's true. We're still waiting for your appearance on Doctor Who.
Exactly. I need a cameo, don't I? Where they try to make them any long-running show that tries to make itself desperately relevant by pulling in some social media influencer to liven up and then everyone goes, "Who was that guy?" A couple of years later, they go, "Oh, he did a couple of TikToks that went viral." All right, I remember TikTok.
back in the Audies.
Yeah, back in the days. Anyway, already, I knew we'd probably go off-piste, but that's part of the dynamic of these things, these longer format discussions. But I would like to hear from you as an expert debunker of Victorian hoaxes in all flavours, forms and varieties, about anything spooky, deathly, mortuary, morbid that the Victorians made up. Because I struggled to think in the sort of black and white of that's right, that's wrong. But most of the things the Victorians said was wrong, and they've been proven wrong in time, but they were even wrong at the time. And so I suppose, where do we start?
Oh, there's a lot. I mean, the thing is that Victorians in general had a lot of sort of memento mori fetishism, and they really love their death. They love their spooky stories. Even spooky stories of Christmas was invented by the Victorians. But this whole idea of death in general pervaded a lot of I wouldn't say media, but a lot of their lives. Yeah. And I think we should start with our favorite friends, the Crystal Skulls.
Crystal Skulls, but they were in a movie. I saw it. They must be true.
Yes, a documentary.
It was a documentary. It was the best Indiana Jones film, apart from the more recent one, which I've forgotten, but I did enjoy. Yeah, I can't remember what it's called though. Yeah, Indiana Jones good. And the something or other. But that was actually quite fun. But I don't know.
It's something that bothers me, and we talked about this on a previous program. Something that bothers me about the Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull movies is previously the joy of Indiana Jones was always he found something that was legendary, that was not real, that you could only dream of, like the Ark of the Covenant or the chalice, right? I mean, obviously we know these objects may or may not have been based on real things, but nobody's ever found them, and that was the joy of Indiana Jones. And then comes Crystal Skulls. Items that we know are fake, items that he, as an archaeologist, should know are fake. Even in his time, he should know that they're fake, because they were pronounced fakes quite early, and he still doesn't know. And that is kind of the sad bit about that. Not only about the natives being locked into walls and things like that. That's also
yeah. We never found out why they were doing that. Hey guys, let's all just hide in a wall for half a century, because that's the way. Yeah, that'll get them. They'll be sorry. They thought we were extinct, but we're just hiding in the walls. I never really worked that out. I don't think we're supposed to, really, are we?
I don't think Spielberg did either. But yeah, that to me was the sad bit about that movie. Is you're an archaeologist and you know that things belong in a museum, but you don't know that the Crystal Skulls are fake. And so obviously they are, and we all know that they are now. But according to legends, there's supposed to be 13 Crystal Skulls, and only 12 of them have been found, or so people think. And the story is that if the 13 of them come together, they do something. Either they bring about some great calamity, or they foretell some prophecy. And the crystal that the skulls are made out of, they're chloride inclusions. And they're only found in places like Madagascar and Brazil, absolutely nowhere near where they said they were from. So Howard, where did they say that they were from?
Are we talking about the original original claim?
The Victorians, where did they say that
I actually can't remember. Is it Mayan?
They said that they were either Mayan or Incan. Yeah. And obviously the great study that was done on them not long afterward is that they were probably manufactured in Germany, and likely at a workshop of Oberstein, which was renowned for crafting really cool looking objects from Brazilian quartz in the late 19th century.
So we have a comparison of other weird shit that they produced.
Yeah. We do. That they were known for making really interesting objects out of this particular Brazilian quartz, and trade in general in fake artifacts during the late 19th century was very well known, and this was even written about by Smithsonian archaeologists, who said that the trade in spurious Mexican antiquities, and so this is a big thing. There was an antiquarian, because we had talked about a little bit of difference between archaeologists and antiquarians. There was a French antiquarian by an infamous fraudster, Eugene Bobon, who was an antique dealer, who was operating in Mexico City and between 1860 and 1880. And he had lots of stuff that he pawned off, saying it was, oh yes, it's absolutely real, but absolutely none of the skulls in the museums that we know of were ever found in situ, ever. There were a couple of we know of quite a few of them. There are a couple of them that became most famous. One of them is the British Museum skull. That first, does the British Museum still have that one? I don't even know.
I'm going to look it up. I'm going to see. Crystal
'Cause
Skull.
it first appeared in 1881 in the British Museum, and again, it was so.
I've seen it though. I'm sure I've seen it, or maybe I imagined it. No, it's on their website. Yeah. So here we are.
So they still have it.
Yeah. Museum. It was acquired 1898. Object: the Crystal Skull. Produced before 1881.
Yeah.
Here we are. Although the spectacular appearance and representing considerable craftsmanship, the origins of this large carving of a skull in rock crystal are most this is classic. Let me just start this sentence again. This is the British Museum in a nutshell. In fact, although of spectacular appearance and representing considerable craftsmanship, the origins of this large carving of a skull in rock crystal are most uncertain. Purchased from Tiffany of New York in the late 1890s, the skull has passed through many hands and was said by J.F. Kuntz in 1890 to have originally been from. Oh, and it goes on, but this is written in proper long-form essay format, originally from pre-Hispanic Mexico. Attempts to verify this on technological grounds have not proved successful. Although the stylization of the features of the skull is in general accord with other examples accepted as genuine Aztec or Mixtec carvings, the overall appearance does not represent an obvious example of Aztec or other Mesoamerican art style. This has clearly been lifted from pre-internet days. No one writes in sentences like this. When last examined by the British Museum Research Laboratory, the conclusion was that some of the incised holes forming the teeth seem most likely to have been cut with a jeweler's wheel than to have been produced by the techniques available to Aztec lapidaries. This is wonderfully written. This is actually, surprise, surprise. No, it doesn't actually give a citation to themselves, but this is written pre-modern internet short sentence.
Oh, well, that's the British Museum too. I remember when they finally did modern studies on the Lindo Man, and they had to admit that he was not killed and that he was not garroted and left in a bog, and not killed by druids, because they finally did studies on him versus the bog that he was found in, and discovered that he was not killed during druid times. And so when they wrote a whole thing exactly like that, saying, although we once thought this, we actually think this, but here is what and then it is literally a whole essay. It's a PDF that you can download to read about the Lindo Man. So I guess of course the British Museum's going to keep it because people will definitely want to see what all the fuss was about. There's also the Paris skull that was quite famous, also sold by fraudster Eugene Boban. And I think the most famous one though was the Mitchell Hedges skull, and that's the skull of doom. And that's the one this one, the story is just immense because Frederick Mitchell Hedges claimed that he acquired the skull, not found it, acquired the skull in a letter to his brother, and he said that it was pre-1800 BC. I don't know where he came up with that date. I don't think he just pulled it out of his hat. And that was it. He claimed to, and then he claimed later to have found it himself, and made up this completely mythical backstory for it. And then when he died, his daughter inherited it, Anna, and Anna claimed that she was the one who discovered the skull. And she claimed that it could cause visions and cure diseases. And she was told that that some Aztec person had cursed it and killed somebody with it. Again, don't know where she got the story.
Sounds convincing to me.
Yeah,
no smoke without fire. It must have happened. Trust me, bro.
That's the ancient equivalent of "trust me, bro." Then there's the Smithsonian skull that just randomly appeared in 1992 and was sent to them anonymously, probably again to be verified and studied. Again, claiming to be an Aztec object by the donor, and it was said to have come from the collection of Mexican General Mr. Diaz. Again, we don't know if that's true. It was just sent that way. But obviously there, and so now that one is not at the Smithsonian, but it's at the Museum of Natural History, and it is displayed as a modern fake. And it was research carried out in 1967 that was conclusive, saying that obviously it was all made by jewelers' material. It's real.
But I wish the British Museum just had at the top of that page fake.
Yeah.
And then an essay, because people are not gonna This
No,
is,
you know what? I appreciate that because it makes them read. It makes them read.
well,
We need that.
I suppose that is true, but I just meant that the fact that I can do a minute long video and people go, hang on, what are you saying? It's not real. I said, if you got past the first sentence, which was the joke, then you would know, but people go, what are you trying to say? What are you trying to say? I said, I get to it in 55 seconds, maybe, so I don't know, maybe I like the idea of just saying fake hoax because at least then you get there, up front.
Well, these are all hoaxes. This is my
Yeah.
style, say. So our next is our favorite friend, the Cardiff Giant, who.
So he's not from Cardiff after all.
No. So here's the thing: is he's not from either Cardiff, and a lot of people, I think, mistakenly think he was found somewhere in Wales.
Definitely was, because you said it.
No, he was.
There can't be more than one Cardiff. Americans have never gone around making
never
proposing English and Welsh names on colonial landscapes. Never happened.
New York never happened. No, not at all.
Exactly. It's the new Cardiff Giant.
Yeah, the rebranding. He needs
the all new.
Back. The all new Cardiff Giant.
Scooby-Doo or Popeye.
Under new management.
Yeah.
So he showed up in 1869, and he was discovered, for those who are listening, I'm doing air quotes, he was discovered by some workers digging a well behind the barn of a man named William Newell. And the Petrified Man, in air quotes.
I'm just looking at the picture now. I think I looked at this years ago, and honestly, my God, it's so rubbish. Go on, sorry, I interrupted. Sorry.
They say is Petrified Man. He's 10 foot tall and about 3,000 pounds. And the excavation soon became an attraction site, which immediately should tip you off, because if it's a real excavation, they don't let anybody. Yeah. They don't let anybody on for fear that you'll step in the archaeology. But the giant is essentially lying down. He has a kind of semi-realistic face, but his ribs look like Pez candy, and it really just looks like somebody buried a terribly done half-done statue. And it was a commission by a man named George Hull, who got into an argument with a reverend that he hated, because this is around the time where Darwin was becoming popular, etc. And so the reverend, who was Methodist, said that the Bible should be taken literally. This is also really when Bible literalism started. A lot of the time, people think that, people in the Middle Ages, people took the Bible literally, but they really didn't. It wasn't like that in the Middle Ages.
No, it's only in the internet age. In the 19th century.
It's true. It really is only then, really quote unquote modern times, where this whole idea of literalism sort of took off. And so this reverend was a literalist, and Mr. George Hull was an atheist and didn't like that. And he very much believed in what Darwin was saying. And the Reverend apparently said the phrase, there were giants in the earth in those days. And so George Hull took it literally, and he went, all right, I'm going to play this man. And he did it really to poke fun at this guy and make some money. Hull, he was pretty smart about it. He consulted a geologist for the project. He rubbed the statue with sulfuric acid to make the giant appear old. Yeah, I don't know how the people didn't die from the gas over there, but they didn't. And he spent a goodly amount of money on this. He spent the equivalent of about $61,000 on this whole project. So, the man was a tobacconist. He had money to burn. So he had it transported by the railway to his cousin's farm. And what was his cousin's name? William Newell. And so they buried it, and then they left it for a year under ground. And so nearly a year later, Newell hired two random guys to dig a well on his property and told him where to dig. And so that's how they, quote unquote, found the Petrified Man, the Cardiff Giant. And so when you actually see it, you look at it, you go, oh, come on. This is so ridiculous. You can't believe he really looks like mortified Pez candy. How could they have believed for a second that this was real? But anybody who saw it knew it was a hoax immediately. But Hull came out very quickly and said, "Oh yeah, I did it. I did it to smoke this guy," but he made money off it. He actually made money. So
the thing is,
job.
You mock me, but if someone said they found this amazing thing, even if I didn't believe it, you still want to go and have a look in the days before the internet, don't you? Like I do click occasionally on nonsense stories just to, even though I know they're nonsense. It's not, the fact that you're engaging with it doesn't mean you're a complete mug. It's, many people, well, I try not to, but my point is, a lot of people who engage with these, I watch Ancient Aliens. I don't. I had to watch one section for Frederick, who's a Swedish podcaster, and my brain just fried. But
I felt he made me watch the episode on Merlin, and it took me 2 hours to get through 20 minutes because I couldn't stop yelling. It was so bad.
But my point is, I understand. I'm forgiving of people who engage with this stuff, and just to go, that's interesting. It's intriguing, the idea of the attention and just watching the phenomenon. It's like some of these celebrity stars, and people who follow their little spats and who they're breaking up with and what they're getting into arguments in bars with. I don't really care. I know they're real in this case, but I'm just intrigued by what's going on and that everyone else is talking about it. So I understand the dynamics at play, but honestly, it's so bad, isn't it? It just doesn't even look, it must have been bad at the time. They must have known. But,
yeah, anybody who actually really, really knew. You could see it's a statue. You could see it's not a real person. It doesn't even have. Come on, it has no petrified anything. It doesn't have any kind of skin it doesn't even have clothes. Got nothing. He would be mummified, or he would be semi-rotted away. Even bog bodies, the humic acid does things to your skin.
Yeah.
It doesn't do it. No, it looks like somebody whitewashed a stone statue and threw it on the ground. That's what it looks like. It's a very expensive statue.
Is it still on display? Is it still a phenomenon that gets attention, or is it gone? Oh, it's got a resting place according to Wikipedia.
Yeah.
There's a photograph of it at the Finemore Farm and Country Village, whatever that is. These things live on.
Yep, he's still there. He's still there. So even in his non-life, he has a non-death.
So giants are. Just for people to appreciate, giants. The internet is flooded with fake images of archaeologists, very small archaeologists excavating very large, photoshopped images of giants. And the idea of the giants is not only biblical, but links to ancient mythology, and it's found in many different, folklores as well. And giants vary in size all the time. I live a little way from Shropshire, which is ram-packed full of Welsh giants. And the giants of Shropshire are very ethnically defined. They're all Welsh, and they hate the English Shropshire people. And that's probably with good reason. If they were Welsh giants, they'd be a bit Brythonic giants. They would be a bit knocked off with the people of Shropshire. So that seems to survive, at least in the stories. And so it's a widespread phenomenon, isn't it, of folklore and.
But if your giants are so close, do you ever pop round for tea?
No, they don't. I never get any kind of invites like that. I think they know I'm a miser and I don't have enough in the cupboards. But we've just had Christmas adverts by Sainsbury's, the supermarket chain, with the BFG. And I was going to do a video trying to decode the plot of these adverts, because it makes no sense. The idea of the plot is a baddie giant is stealing everyone's food. Sainsbury's replace the food. Then Sainsbury's helicopter away to some unknown destination the bad giant when he falls asleep from overconsumption, and they invite the BFG round for tea. And I'm just going, hang on, who's paying for all this then? And
is Sainsbury's giving away that much food? How do they have a helicopter?
And then what do they, this, and the final line is this: you don't have room for me. And the sort of Sainsbury's employee in a regional accent, of course, because it's Scottish accent, goes, "It's Christmas. We'll make room." I said, hang on. You're making room for a giant, and then it's almost like it's made up.
I hate when these ads are so not realistic.
I know,
So
but it's just like I just kind of like, what is the moral lesson here? And the moral lesson is that we're Sainsbury's and we're going to feed everyone for free, but we won't.
Especially Sainsbury's, they're not going to do it. No way.
No, exactly. So I don't know what the story is, but giants do appear in our pop culture ad nauseum, and my landscape around here is ram-packed full of giants. We have Welsh giants, we have Shropshire giants, which are Welsh in many ways. Yeah, so there's lots of real giants. Well, not real giants around here. There's a wonderful heritage trail near Corwen in the Dee Valley where they a couple of years ago they put up the hill, because the hill has a view over Caerdrewin, which is an Iron Age hill fort, which has a story it was made by a giant. And they put up the trail these huge giant-sized objects like a fork and a pipe, and so that the kids could interact with these huge giant artifacts and sort of. Yeah, I thought it was really cool.
Well, so if the giant artifacts are there, Howard, the giants must be real.
Exactly. And in a few years' time, people will probably forget the story they put up there as a heritage trail, and they'll become something. Yeah. I did a video about it, but
you could just write it. Just write it. Like, so, for example, in our next hoax was the Petrified Man. Do you know this was the Petrified Man of 1882?
No, I don't know this one.
This is a report that appeared in Territorial Enterprise in Virginia City, Nevada's local paper in October 4th of 1862. And so 1882. So I will read to you the original report, Howard, and you will tell me whether or not this is real.
Okay, I must tell you, though, before I start, I hadn't heard about this before, but I've opened a page and it shows me an image, and I'm afraid I've already seen the image. So the image of this Petrified Man is now ingrained in my brain, but I'm trying to cope.
A petrified man was found some time ago in the mountains of South Gravelly Ford. Every limb and feature of the stony mummy was perfect, not even excepting the left leg, which was evidently been a wooden one during the lifetime of its owner, which lifetime, by the way, came to a close about a century ago, in the opinion of the savant who examined the defunct. The body was in a sitting posture and leaning against a huge mass of croppings. The attitude was pensive, the right thumb resting against the side of the nose, the left thumb partially supported on the chin, the forefinger pressing the inner corner of the left eye and drawing it partially open. The right eye was closed and the fingers of the right hand spread apart. Howard, what is wrong with this picture?
I mean, how does that happen? How do you get frozen in that posture?
And so people believe this for quite a while, and the story went around the world. And would you like to take a guess as to who started the story, Howard? Who wrote this?
The newspaper owner or the discoverer?
So the quote unquote discoverer, whose name was Mark Twain, and he he actually worked for the Territorial Enterprise, and it was his first hoax. And he wrote it as a quote unquote string of roaring absurdities, which is hilarious. But he wrote it for a couple of reasons. He wanted to poke fun at there were many stories like this going around at the time. So people essentially, it was a way to get people to go to certain locations. So people would go and they would try to find it. And obviously it wasn't there. And he actually really did it to mock a local politician that he hated, Judge Sewell, who he really thought was an idiot. And he said he'd had a falling out with this guy. And he was a coroner of justice of the peace, and he thought he really wanted to rile him up, and so he came up with this completely ridiculous story. And for months this went on, and people believed this. And it was reported in newspapers around the world until finally he came out and said, "No, I did it." And that was that.
So I suppose it's kind of these stories are starting to assure me that archaeological or quasi-archaeological discoveries, while they're more widely distributed now by the social media, that people have always been gullible. And maybe that's assuring in some way. And he was a talented writer. I heard about this Mark Twain guy. He wrote some literature of some sort, I believe. So there is evidence that you need some skill to fool people as well. So maybe that's something to be consoled with. I don't know. I'm trying to look for positives here.
The gesture is like this. Like, come on, How did people ever think that was true? I mean, props to him for finding somebody to illustrate the gesture and show it in the paper. But how did people
and the people looking at it, illustration of the Petrified Man from 1882, and it's just like the people going, oh,
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But yeah, they actually did have somebody make a depiction of it. So people went to look for it. They did try to find, obviously it's never existed, not real. Not even a fake one was made. So they just kind of left it there. The last one that I have for you of our deathly nonsense is our good friend, the Calaveras Skull, which I Yeah, which I think you know quite a lot about. The skull was discovered in 1866, and it was found by miners inside of Bald Mountain in Calaveras County, and that's why it's called the Calaveras Skull. Skull was located around 130 feet below the surface, in a layer of lava inside the mountain. That's how deep it was. It was pretty deep. The owner of the mine was a man named James Madison. He gave the skull to a merchant who gave it to a physician who passed it on to a man named J.D. Whitney, who was a professor of geology at Harvard. And Whitney, who was not an anthropologist or an archaeologist, he was a geologist, determined that the skull belonged to the Pliocene age, which is over 2 million years ago. How he determined this? Just by going, yes, I think this is very old. I have no idea where he came up with this number. I don't think anybody knows.
Sounds good, though. Sounds convincing. From times immemorial, from ancient times. It's earlier than I thought, to be honest, Michelle. I got it into my head this was comparable date to Piltdown Man, but I haven't looked at this for ages, to be honest with you. But it is 1866 discovery. So
Yeah.
I kind of, and then spilling out over the subsequent years, I must admit, in my mind, it was 1900s. I don't know.
Is it Piltdown Mountain is 1910, I think, right?
Yeah, something around
Yeah,
there.
and
Yeah.
that's why I didn't include him on this list because we were talking
Yeah.
about Victorian hoaxes. So I think he's a little bit later. Yeah, but this is 1866. It's actually quite early. And so a year before this skull got into J.D. Whitney's hands, he published his ideas on the fact that humans and mastodons and mammoths were all together at the same time. So, I mean, humans were around with them, and we were possibly even the reason that mastodons died out.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
how Whitney thought that finding the skull was going to prove that when no mastodon or mammoth bones were found with the skull, I have no idea.
But it's almost
Weird.
like you can be right by accident, can't you? In so many times, and this is a good example of that. Is that you can be these characters, they're creating narratives that end up becoming true. It doesn't mean they had any vision or any. You can a clock stop twice a year, or twice a day. It's accurate. A stop clock is accurate twice a day, or is right
There
twice a
you
day.
go.
That's what I meant. But my point is that you have. I've even come up loggerheads against some of my medievalist colleagues who have made a big thing about mocking a politician for getting something wrong. And I say, well, they don't know that they're right. They don't know that they're right, but they are actually righter than you are by trying to debunk them, because they may be an idiot, but you're debunking something that doesn't need debunking because it's ridiculous. But actually, they're closer to accuracy than your attempt to debunk it. So I found myself sort of thinking, sometimes people just come up with random shit that happens to end up being, not right, but, on the right lines,
Exactly. And so Whitney just he shoot his shot, and so he decided, yep, this is how I'm going to prove myself right. The skull then went to the hands of a man named Dr. Jones, not that one, who sent the skull for a survey. And after examining it, Whitney actually decided to interview the people who found it, and he interviewed the owner of the mine and the person who found it, and just to find out where it was. And then, as they were, even though he decided to believe them, the answers they were giving were not exactly lining up with things. So 3 years later, in 1869, the San Francisco Evening Bulletin reported that a miner had told a minister that the skull was planted as a practical joke against Whitney. And it was actually the more scientific part of this is that Thomas Wilson of Harvard did a fluorine analysis on the skull, which was the first one that was ever done on human bone. So that at least something good came out of this. And then his results stated that obviously the skull was recent. But the creepier thing is nobody knows whose skull this is or where they got it. They determined that it is human, but nobody knows whose head this was. So they just got it and they put it in the ground. So I think that's the stranger part of the story.
So it actually could be a Native American skull, another example of disrespect to a Native American burial ground, or it could be a murder victim, or someone who died in the mine, or any kind of horrible thing.
They did say that it is recent, but we don't know whose skull it is, and we maybe might never know. I don't actually know where the skull is now, unfortunately. But apparently the miners who planted this hated Whitney so much because he was a stuffed shirt geologist from a swanky school.
Yeah.
And so they just wanted to prove that he was an idiot. And unfortunately, they got him pretty good. Furthermore, the person who sold the skull to these people, he was the one who actually planted it and was in on the joke, and he just didn't tell anybody. And again, you're like, where did he get a skull? And so he had one, and nobody knows where he got it. So that's it was an elaborate hoax that was put together by all of these people just to make Whitney look stupid. And I wonder how he felt after falling for the joke.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? It may seem elaborate, but at the time it may have seemed quite straightforward to people. And then there's the issue of, regardless of what the intent, and maybe it was intended as a short run thing, but once it's happened, these have lives of their own. And like Piltdown Man, they can spin out longer than people ever intended. And of course, the one I was going to add to myself, which isn't to do with human remains, but is memorial in itself, is of course just into the very end of the 19th century, of course, in the Kensington runestone, which we don't know whether there was a deliberate intention to fool an academic community or this was a very personalized. Was it a joke? Was it, we can never work out motivations. And so the archaeology of hoaxes is a subject in itself, because you've got to decode the motives and think through the implications. And then there are positives. It helps to push forward scientific analysis and helps us to sharpen our critical thinking skills. I mean, I'm not saying that hoaxes are good, but they certainly can lead to good, in the sense of forcing people to, well, if you think this is a hoax, what is the evidence for it? And what is the better idea? What is the better scenario? And so it keeps us on our toes in a healthy way. And so while I don't want to be seen as seeing myself as simply in locking swords in gentlemanly camaraderie, type of, with pseudo-archaeology, I think they're deeply pernicious and harmful narratives, but they can help us to refine our theories, methods, and techniques in some ways. But honestly, they're so starkly rubbish, though, aren't they? And some of the, for me, the Kensington runestone is the one that I think, how did anyone indulge this? How did it, there's layers of potential justification for why people might think there could be possibly a medieval Scandinavian presence that far west, but it's so implausible. And but it's still people go every week. I get another comment. But what about the Kensington runestone? I go, what about it? But that shows. No, it doesn't.
I was actually going to put, as a little bonus just for you, even though it doesn't have anything to do with death, I was going to put the Vinland map.
Yes, of course.
Now, because you're not a Viking, mate. So
you're not a Viking. Now, the Vinland map is another one that people indulged for quite a while, didn't they? I can't remember the details off the top of my head.
People really thought it was real, but it really until the it was finally, there were tons of studies that were done on it. People thought it was real, but the ink that the Vinland map is made out of was not in production until the 1920s. And also the inscription in Latin on the back of the map is totally spurious. It's ridiculous. Come on, guys. And no matter how many times the universities do really, they take it into consideration. As you say, there is a science to finding out something is fake. And it was really in 1965 that it was definitive that it was absolutely fake. But unfortunately, there's nothing. The thing is that I think people believed it because it did point to something that is real, is that the Vikings were in North America long before Christopher Columbus, which is a true thing that happened.
Yes.
But they were here for 8 years maximum. And then they went, wow, this place is pretty terrible. And they just left. And that was it. There was no, at least as far as we know in this moment in time,
that's correct.
There is no settlements that we know of. And here being in Canada, L'Anse aux Meadows is not far from here. And I say not far, it's 22 hours away. In Canada, that's not far. So,
it's quite close. Yeah.
But that's as much as we know as they ever got to. So we can't really say otherwise. And we've never found evidence of an actual Viking colony here. It was as far as we know, it was a boat station that they used to fix things and then leave with. So, but
Yeah.
the funny thing I think is that when they found the ore in Lonesome Meadows, and they found the ore that the Vikings used, it was so poor in quality that I could just imagine them digging it up and just going, "Wow, this is a bit shit, in it," and then they just leave and they just don't come back.
Yes, it does. I mean, I suppose one of the things that captivates people is the mysteries, and human remains are not the only, but they're one of the key sort of touchstones of the past. They're a way we come face to face often with the skulls, at least literally face to face, but also we can connect to personal stories, and therefore there is something very emotive, very seductive, very tangible that connects us with that story. And so when you, even if it's completely ridiculous, whether it's a Fijian mermaid or a something that is either human or partially human or humanoid, it is absolutely fascinates people. And the story of human evolution and the discovery of fossils is builds on that quest for people like us but not like us, the connections, and so I have a lot of sympathy with why people are duped by these sort of fossil human and early human narratives, because they're often in fragments, and some of the best evidence we have comes from tiny fragments. I was recently in the Archaeological Museum of Catalonia in Barcelona, and they have just a jaw of a Neanderthal, and I think, I can't tell you, I'm not the most well-traveled person, but I can't say I've ever been in many places where I've seen Neanderthal human remains, the actual thing, not some. There's so many, famous fossils, shared out to museums, and I forget if I've actually seen many actual real ones outside the Natural History Museum in London. And this was just like, wow, yeah, that's it, that's the real thing, isn't it? And then your brain is reconstructing an entire person from that one fragment, and it's absolutely captivating. And so for me, this is why I'm wishy-washy, Michelle, because I understand the
I want
urge.
to believe. I
don't necessarily want to believe as much as I have sympathy in those that do. I feel have sympathies for them, but not that much that I would indulge. Although I am a softie face to face, is that I spend many a train journey, taxi journey, listening to someone go, "Oh, you're an archaeologist, I watched this Graham Hancock show, and the pyramids are made of paper mache, and did you know that they've got Peruvian massive like hummingbirds on the desert that would fly around?" And I guess I just whatever they're talking about, I just go, yeah, it's interesting stuff, isn't it? But I look at well, I can tell you, but they don't want to listen to anything I can tell. They're not like, "Oh wow, I'm next to a professor of archaeology, I can ask him what is something really cool." They just want to go, "Yeah, I'll tell you what I saw on TV," and I go, yeah, right, thanks. Yeah, it's so I'm very soft.
But this is why, Howard, we have to get you on the telly. This is why they can go, "That man from the telly told me something."
Yeah, no, I don't. I don't think I'll ever be on the TV. I've done a few TV documentaries, but nothing. But I do need to be. Me and Archaea Wolf could do a road trip show where we just rant about every site we go to. Look at this bullshit, But I mean, I think talking to people, face to face, I'm very gentle. But for the online culture, you have to be quite demonstrative and say, "No, I'm sorry, we don't have evidence. I'm not indulging this because this is actually really a pernicious narrative." And so I do understand that, but equally, I have a part of me does go, I understand why you'd want it to be that.
I debunk a lot of stuff on my channel, but no one ever listens anyway. But recently, the one that people really pushed back on is not necessarily the Victorian one, which you would think a lot of more people do because it's quite recent history. But the one that people pushed back on the most was the fact that people lived beyond 35 in the Middle Ages. And it is an absolute lie that we didn't have old people. We absolutely did. The average age was 35 because the infant mortality rate was so high. And so, but people absolutely will not believe this, no matter. I'm like, we have so many people throughout history who live to old age that it's ridiculous to think that, look how many Roman emperors made it to their 70s. It's ridiculous to think that you think everybody who lived only made it to 35. Who raised the babies then? Who taught people craftsmanship? It just didn't make any sense. Life wouldn't continue if people only lived to 35.
Yeah, well, let me teach you a craft. Oh, it's like, well,
yeah, pretty much, exactly. You're going to teach like 5-year-olds to be blacksmiths, and then they're going to pass that on to other 5-year-olds. It doesn't,
No.
it doesn't make any sense, really. Not only that, but I mean, people are looking at this from, or I get people say that, oh, it was only poor people. Actually, we have a lot of rich people who write about losing their children, or we have portraits of people who, especially 1700s, where they painted their dead babies as a sort of a honorary. We have, portraits of children in swaddling cloths, and the kids were dead by the time that they were painted.
Oh, yeah.
But it was a way to remember them. And so, this idea that, well, rich people didn't have kids who died is also not true at all.
So what do you I mean, I must admit, I'm uncovering new mythologies all the time, new, not hoaxes, but new misunderstandings of the past. And sometimes I'm realizing some of them do go back to the Victorian age. I just hadn't noticed them before.
Like what?
Well, I'm obviously, I did my doctoral thesis on early Anglo-Saxon period cremation, so sort of 5th to 6th, early 7th century cremation practices in Eastern England. And I've just edited a book with Dr. Femke Lippok of Leiden University on cremation across the early medieval Northwest Europe. So we look at the archaeological evidence behind the stories. So actually, that book is missing. Actually, there's a couple of chapters it's missing, but that's true of all edited collections. Is we don't have someone who does a synthesis of all the literature and the historical references, including obviously Beowulf, including the Norse mythology, but it gets referenced in different places. But for me, I hadn't realised until 4 days ago that there's a whole subgenre of late medieval England, hey nonny nonny, people in the merry men of Sherwood cremate their dead.
Yeah.
They cremate their dead. So I didn't realize. So what I've just found out is that the new version of Robin Hood has a cremation in it. Then I've realized that I just literally watched it last night for the first time, that the Russell Crowe, Ridley Scott version of Robin Hood has a cremation in it. Do I now need to look? Do I want to look? Should I open that Pandora's box of cremation? Yes, where the hell does this come from? Why do people think that in the 12th, early 13th century, the peasant Saxon folk of England are pagan and cremating the dead? Do I want to know, Michelle? I don't know if I want to know.
Well, it's not that they were pagan. There's actually, I could put you to a wonderful study that was done by Professor Ronald Hutton. He did a book called Merry England, or rather, I should say The Rise and Fall of Merry England, in which he talks about all of this and how it wasn't necessarily pagan time, but it had to do with certain church rules that were made and unrelaxed, etc. And so because of that, it was more of a quote unquote merry or freeing time. And so we get a lot of things like May Day festivals started during that time. And again, it had nothing to do with paganism.
That time being very late medieval into the early modern.
Yeah, around, I think the starting years he puts is 1290 something. I can't remember the date that he says exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, essentially the 1290 something to the early modern period is the quote unquote the rise and fall of Merry England, and it had to do with church laws. Or at least part of it was to do with church laws, and how. So, for example, you talk about Robin Hood. Robin Hood originally started as a villain. And he originally started as somebody who was a figure of fun, who would kill priests and things like that. And so audiences were meant to go, boo, and then give money, donate to the church. And so a lot of these sort of plays and traditions started around this time, where they would have a character that the audience would lock up with, and then they would donate to the church at the end of it. So the church would start to fund these kind of, I don't want to say the word, but pagan-esque looking things.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It was just kind of like a masquerade or a play that they would put on. And obviously for certain things. So we have all kinds of things like this, and we have St. Nicholas plays of Paradise, that the church all starts to, obviously in different regions and different countries, and the church starts to not necessarily fund, but allow. And they realize, ooh, we can get money this way, and we can make a fun thing, and so that's why they do it. I can't speak to the cremations. That's all.
No, that's the bit I'm missing, and I wonder whether I have to go back to read Sir Walter Scott and Ivanhoe. And
no.
Have they?
Don't read Sir Walter Scott, because my God, the amount of lies that man put in his books.
But that's what I mean. Is I hadn't clocked that cremation, and that's a whole research project in itself. All I'm going to do is a blog post about the Ridley Scott movie and then the new TV show. And the problem is I'll have to pay to watch the new crap people should be paying me to watch this crap, but I'm going to have to pay per episode on Amazon Prime to watch this just to go, that was rubbish. But the first episode's got Sean Bean as the Sheriff of Nottingham. I mean, he's such a great bad guy. I believe him.
Is he, Jen?
He goes, well, the Normans invaded and we took over and you just lost your land. And I go, that sounds reasonable. That sounds reasonable, Sean. I'm with you. I'm with the Sheriff of Nottingham. Screw the Saxons. Normans all the way. I think, hang on. No, he's supposed to be the bad guy. This is so rubbish. But anyway, I might do a blog later on. But I'm for this. But
discussion. Howard, was there really a Sheriff of Nottingham?
I don't know. Was there? Probably not.
Yeah, there was, but obviously
there probably was. Yeah,
there was no Robin Hood,
and he was Alan Rickman, but now he's Potter. No, but yeah, it's really good stuff, though, isn't it? And it's intriguing. And I suppose the lesson we learn is that people are always gullible, and always people are willing to hoodwink you about the past, I suppose. And we've always got to be vigilant.
Somebody bought me this book for the Christmas. It was written in 2012, so long before AI garbage started coming in. And so I've been going through and fact checking it because I don't believe in fun. I believe in truth. And so part of it is actually not bad. It got everything on Christmas right. There's a couple of archaeological things that got right, but obviously it's got, some weird facts. As this one says, it took 30 million hours for Stonehenge workers to build Stonehenge. We do not know that. But But it also falls prey to a lot of Victorian hoaxes. And one of the big ones that it talks about that it gets wrong is the Iron Maiden. And
oh yes,
the Iron Maiden and the Pair of Anguish, which are both hoaxes. They are not medieval instruments. They never existed in the medieval era. They were completely made up by the Victorians. But this book says that they were medieval. So, even things like this can get it wrong.
We could all be hoodwinked. None of us are above being duped, and we've just got to be honest and admit when we get things wrong, and we all learn in a collective endeavour, is the way I put it. But I just want to thank you, Michelle, for sharing those fascinating Victorian hoaxes, and I'm sure there's many more we can explore.
Oh, there's so many more. Oh, there's so many. I just picked the ones that had to do with death. But remember, kids, that you take away anything from this conversation is if a Victorian said it, they probably lied. So
and
the
dead were like. No, I had a fellow lecturer who was a bit of a dick, and he once told the students that the Iron Age cultures of East Yorkshire, the Aras culture, would ride bicycles into battle, which is why you find their bicycles in their graves. And what he's referring to is the dismantled chariots or carts on the wheels, and you've got this one burial that's between these two wheels. And he did it as a joke, but of course he got a student essay back with, and of course the bicycles, because this is the day before students they didn't, anyway. And I just thought, you shouldn't even joke, man. And he goes, yeah, but there was the time that I told people that the Neanderthals distribution, the range of Neanderthal fossils is very similar to the extent of the Roman Empire under Trajan. And I said, you didn't, did you? And I got an essay back saying, yes, incidentally, the distribution of Neanderthal. Don't say this; it'll only come back. So a joke is a joke, but sometimes the jokes become hoaxes, and that's where it goes. That's where it turns ugly. And years later, people go, "Oh, you're the guy that thought this." No, it was a joke, honest.
There was recently a statue that was being a statue of, I think it was like of sexy Squidward that's being sunk into the sea, and so all the titles are to fool archaeologists. And my immediate comment on all these things was, no, because there's a record of it.
Yeah.
How stupid do they? And then I realized what you said. I'm like, no, someone's going to believe that it's old.
I mean, there was a case about I think Mark was talking about it a few years ago, about the stone circle that was discovered by archaeologists in northern Scotland that was only like 10 years or 20 years old, and that someone had done it as a modern pagan place of worship with own good intentions, and it just became archaeology. And it was archaeology. It is real archaeology, but it's archaeology of the late 20th century, not archaeology of the Bronze Age or whatever.
So remember, kids, the crystal skulls are artifacts, but they're artifacts of Germany.
Yes, exactly. Like the Kensington runestone is a fascinating example of end of the 19th century, early 20th century Scandinavian settlers in the American Midwest wanting to define their identity and past. It's archaeology, but of the Victorian age. But thank you so much, Michelle. We should put this on YouTube, and I hope people will subscribe to your wonderful channel, and and stay for more, where we're going to be doing, I'm sure, other exciting conversations and debates about all things nonsense and all things archaeological. But thank you so much.
Follow Archaeo Death on YouTube, TikTok, WordPress, and a host of other social media.